Morning, friends. It is Tuesday, June 17th, and this is the 0DTE morning market analysis as well as our tail risk report. And sorry about that. Anyways, we have the G7 going on, and markets are flirting with an all-time high, yet the surface calm may be hiding tectonic shifts with the G7 now in full swing and no major U.S. data prints yet. Traders are stuck in a high compression zone, as we have been for a long time, looks like forever, where every tick feels like an inflection point. And the VIX is hovering just above 20, and structural fatigue is starting to set in. But will global leaders push a new narrative or fracture the fragile breakout setup? Now, here's what matters and what convexity hunters must track before the coil snaps. Now, when I say convexity, what am I actually talking about? I'm talking about from an option trader's point of view or tail risk trader's point of view, not just any options. Most options traders have no idea what convexity is. That's because they're not looking for the type of plays that we're looking for. We're looking for plays that are outside what everybody else wants, but just on the edge of outside. That's where convexity is. It's where if you had moved your strategy further and further and further out, and it's going down by every strike, it goes down by 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents. Then all of a sudden it goes from worth maybe $1.05 down to 40 cents. Right? Right there. Right at that point, that's convexity. That's where we play. And the reason is that most traders, for whatever reason, have figured out that or decided that the trade isn't worth anything from that point on. How can there be a 65 cent difference just on 5 points? Makes no sense. However, the truth is that 20% of the trades exceed that mark a lot, and by a lot. Right? And that's all we care about. We're getting into trades super cheap and collecting big money. And so our trades cost practically nothing. We can let them go. We don't have to manage them. And when they hit that point, they pay off. Imagine a 50 wide butterfly getting paid right there. And you're putting on a $40 trade going for $5,000. That's what we're doing. That's what convexity is. Just thought I'd let you know. And if you want to learn how to do that, go down below to our link there in our Fat Tail School. It's school.com/fattail. And back to the reporting. So from a structural lens, and what I mean by that is the volume profile structural analysis. We sit on the edge of a volatility compression cliff, and right at structure. So we have this compression going, and then we have right at the edge of volume profile, a big, huge volume profile node where there's no liquidity above. Or we could slip back, that's for sure. It could be a really strong breakout if we do see that. Depends on what happens with the G7, and hardly anything really good ever happens there, huh? It's not like we're looking for good news out of there. But anyways, the volume profile reveals price pressed against resistance near all-time highs, but lacking that impulsive energy to clear them, yet not weak enough to trigger panic selling. This is classic volatility posture tension. That's a new phrase. Who made that one up? Yeah? This is a classic volatility posture tension. Sorry. Where the trade is not in the move, but in the potential for mispricing if global headlines or liquidity triggers resolve the stalemate. The G7 summit, which began on June 16th, which was yesterday, introduces a slow burn macro catalyst. And global coordination or disunity or topics like Ukraine aid, trade barriers, and digital currencies may set the tone for a volatility expansion. Meanwhile, U.S. economic releases loom in the background in about half an hour. Like sleeping giants, today's quiet data sheet is deceptive. This is a market pretending that there's stability, but tension is the teacher, and compression precedes expansion. What that really means is calm before the storm. And convexity hunters should be scanning for optional entries around this standoff, especially in the 3 to 5 days to expiration setups aligned with volume cliffs. That's why I wanted to tell you about what convexity was. This is what we're looking for. Anything can happen over the next few days, 3 to 5 days out, looking for those convexity levels. All right. So now we're going to go and look at 0 DTE stuff. And oh, wow. I didn't even realize that the big head wasn't saying all that. You're hearing all of that behind a VIX chart. Well, anyways, the VIX chart is much better looking, so we'll go to that. So, as I said, volatility hovering just above zombie land at the lower half of Goldilocks zone at 20.15 this morning. It has prices pulled back just ever so slightly and just giving a slight inch up on the VIX. So we're looking at 25 to 35 wide. The big ass fly this morning is sitting right below 24, right around there. We can take a look at that. So there we go. There's the big ass fly. As you can see, it's sitting right at 23 and change. All right. So we'll go back to TradingView. So what that means is that we're in the middle part of this range. So middle part of 25 to 35 would be 30. So we're looking for butterflies around 30 wide for the 0 DTE play. And straight 0 DTE play, nothing to do with Time Warp or Batman or anything like that. Unless you're doing one of the tail risk trades, then we might look at something like that. Yesterday we had a very unusual trade where we were able to put on a call fly and a put fly above and below the market. And they were super, super close. The market apparently was anticipating no movement that day. It did start to drift down to the put fly, but never came down close enough to make any money. And those flies were put on super cheap. In fact, I put 2 30-wide flies for less money than it would cost me normally for a single butterfly, out-of-the-money butterfly, and I got them closer, and still the market didn't reach its destination or where I wanted it to go. I guess where I want it to go really doesn't matter now, does it? All right, so let's go a little further into the 0 DTE trade. So we know we're going to be 30 wide. The directional bias is still bullish. I'm going to take this and put it down a little bit like this. It's slightly less bullish, but it is still bullish. And looks like the death cross is starting to come to an end, and we might get a golden cross from death to gold. Woohoo! All right, let's look at the structural analysis for this morning. You can see we attempted a breakout here yesterday, but just totally failed and just ground down, and then overnight just dropped right here. Well, this is before the European Open. This is at 2:30 a.m. and then this is at 3. So right when the European market opened, for whatever reason, there was a drop just before it, and then it started to get some life, and then now this morning it's starting to pick up. The blue dotted lines are the morning session this morning, so that's showing you where we're expecting a pullback and then looking for an entry. So, yeah, yesterday was really kind of weird. We got into the market when we were up here, when I entered the trade, right up here. It allowed me to put in a fly right about here, right? And then I put another one just above, like, I don't know, right about, somewhere around there. And it stayed kind of like in the middle, and this is really close. When you're putting an out-of-the-money fly for under $3, it was like $1.40 or something like that, which is incredible. $1.40 fly usually at that time would be like way down here, right? But it allowed me to put it like right there. And as you can see, as it came into the end of the day, which was right about there. Let's see, is that about 4 o'clock? Yeah, right at 4 o'clock is right there. Never quite hit it, and so it ended up nada. All right. Yeah, but that was yesterday's market. We put the trade on right about here, right in the middle, and then kind of stayed in the middle for most of the day, and then started to move down, and nothing happened. So yeah, that was yesterday's 0DTE trade. It was a good trade, and it was just amazing just how cheap these flies were so close. But the market had it pegged right, that it really wasn't going to move that much. All right. So let's look at the volume profile. We can see here, here's the step 3 of Stairway to Heaven. We're looking at a potential breakout, and above here is very, very low liquidity. All up here. If we get up here and break yesterday's high, there's a good chance that we could really run. Of course, we're going to be running right into these all-time highs, which are definitely going to be a stalling point and potentially break out. Will it happen today? Will there be a catalyst from the G7? I don't know. Or will we just spectacularly fail and then just drop from here? Anything can happen. That's why you need to be prepared and plant those convexity seeds. All right. Again, go to the link down below. Join our Fat Tail community. And you will be able to get all those big, huge mammoth trades that you always miss. In fact, all of those small, tiny little trades that you hit, and then the huge risk that you take that cause you instability, yeah, this requires the big head. Yeah. So all of those trades that you normally take with your high probability, your high win rate strategies, and you're taking tiny, tiny little profits, and you're feeling good, you got that dopamine drip going, and then all of a sudden, bam, you hit that one risk trade that you never think is going to come and wipes out like weeks of profits, and you're devastated, and then you try to crawl back, and you do all sorts of unnatural things, you know. And then that's when you start making bad decisions, and usually that, worse follows bad. And then you see a big move come, and you say, I could have been in there, I could have taken that trade, but you never do. Those trades, those are the ones that we're taking, right? So all of that stuff that you're doing over there, you become our liquidity. That's the truth. All right. Anyways. That's all I have to say for today. Leave you with that note. You want to get out of that morass? Go down below and join school.com/fattail. You will not regret it. Plus, there's a huge bonus there waiting for you. Incredible tool. And I'll talk about that a little later. Anyhow, I want to thank you all very much for joining me this morning. It's been a pleasure. Hope you have a great trading day. Coach Ernie is